What is up, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, and welcome to episode 121 of Expert Mentors Live. Man, I'm super excited for today's episode. We've got a couple of amazing gentlemen on with us, Mr. Matt Durbin and DJ Fairley on with us from the land of Pittsburgh. So we're going to dive into building a leveraged business in real estate and a lot more. Fellas, say hello to the Honey Badger Nation.
What's up, everyone? What's up?
How we doing?
Man, I appreciate you guys jumping on. We was just joking. You jumped from one live to another. And
I did. We're banging them out these days. Yeah, that's it, man. You said create content. We're on the content train right now.
Content train, man. That is it. That is it. I was conversation with Nick Krim Monday or something. He's like, God dang, you guys are putting out a ton of content. I was like, hey, you said there's a content game. We're getting after it. So
yep, I love it. That's where we're headed. Yep.
I love it. I love it. Well, cool, man. So I would love for you guys to jump in and share a little bit about yourselves, a little backstory. I know we kind of in the post, a little bit of history, with you guys, and the story goes much deeper. But wherever you guys want to start, I would love for you guys to jump in. There's a lot of nuggets, a lot of lessons learned to be able to share with everybody. So I'll let you guys kind of run with it.
Yeah, we can do. I can take you through a quick background of me and DJ. We're basically we're pretty much brothers at this point in time. So we met freshman year. We played football together at Gannett University, little D2 college. So we obviously went through that stage, and then we were both ended up somehow living in the DC area at the time. He was on the mortgage side. I was working a corporate job, and he was sleeping till noon every day, making $100,000 a year, and I'm sitting on the Beltway 2 hours a day trying to navigate traffic. And he's like, "Man, you need to get on this mortgage track." So I think 2005, I jumped into the mortgage game, and then he ended up relocating down to Fort Lauderdale, and I was working in Rockville, Maryland for a while, and then. I don't know, man. I hated DC. No offense to the DC people out there. DC just wasn't a place for me. And we had been throwing around. I'm like, we got into the mortgage game, and I'm like, man, we could start a mortgage broker business like today. Like, this isn't that complicated. Yeah. That was back when you needed like 3 documents to get a loan approved, and it take 4 weeks or take 4 days to get something done. So. He's like, well, he called me out. He's like, you moved to Fort Lauderdale, and I'll start a mortgage broker business with you. And then, I went through my dad had passed away at that point in time, and I was just like in, hey, let's just go for it mode. And so I called him. I'm like, I'll be there in 3 months. Start stacking some cash.
I'll never forget that call. He told me, he's like, I think we need about 25 or 30 grand. And it was actually like, he gave me like 60 days. He's like, so figure that out. And then I'm coming. And I was like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. And I remember calling him. It was like 6 weeks. I'm like, I did it. I'm ready.
So I packed the car up, moved to Florida. And then we all know how that story went. That was 2006. We actually did really well for about 10 months, a year. And then the market crashed on us.
Yeah.
And that was ground zero mortgage company. So, ultimately it was like, hey, where do we go from here? And he and DJ bailed, and I don't blame him. He went into, he's a sales guy, so he went into the tech industry. I stayed on the mortgage side of things and kind of stuck it out, worked for a national lender for a while. And then, and then I ultimately got into the real estate side as the market started coming back. And then, 2013, I moved back to Pittsburgh. I had just had it in South Florida. We've been bubble burst, ups, downs, just kind of beat up a little bit, so to speak. And then
that stretch, I said that was a rough stretch.
It was a crazy stretch, man. It was like, is there ever going to be a normal market where you can grow the business? Like, and I was convinced there wasn't there. Like, I'm just like, because it got to a point where you couldn't do a in 2000, like 10, 11, 12, probably 11, 12. You couldn't get a buyer under contract. So we like tried to build a team down there with another business partner, but we couldn't get any buyers under because it was like hedge fund, sight unseen, 10 offers, 20 offers, sight unseen. It was like, so, you know, I had just kind of had enough of that, and I moved back and was really like solo agent. And at the time, when did you go to? And then DJ bounced around a couple of jobs and ended up at CDW, right? When was that?
So that was, let me see, we're
2015 maybe.
Yeah.
And you know, so I think it kind of like some of this past kind of brings us to what we're going to talk about here in you know, in the future here. And it's like I had been up and down and just beat up in the industry, and I came back here and I started growing really in the Pittsburgh market. I'm from a couple hours east of here, so I didn't really have a sphere. So it was just grinding, you know, expireds and build a lead generation system out and that kind of thing. And you know, I was hitting that point in like 16, 17 where I was like, man, I don't know if I can do this for 30 more years, right? Like, what's the other path right now?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do?
No, there's no tunnel yet, right? There's not even a light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Right. It's like, yeah, I was making money, but I was like, if this is what I've got to do for the next 30 years, I'm in trouble, man. I'm going to be miserable. And, you know, and so we talk a lot, obviously, like we've been best friends for a long time. So I think he was going through the same thing, right? And you can kind of take it through like your CDW days.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So me, you know, as Matt said, I'm with all these little tech companies. I'm doing well. I was always kind of the top salesperson, but it wasn't fulfilling. Like, I was doing great monetarily, but I felt like I was the best guy on like the JV team. So when I got hired by CDW, you know, now my goal is, now I'm with a $14 billion company. I want to be the best there. It was like the NFL, right? So the year before, so my first year, I remember I almost got fired in the first 60 days because it's cutthroat. And they literally told me, like, you better go figure out some sales fast. So I just start grinding. I make it. First year's okay. Second year, I do amazing. I miss, they call it a President's Club, it was like one sale. And this was Christmas Eve, my boss calls me. So on January 2nd, on our big call, I kind of called my shot and I said, I'll see you guys next year. I'm making it. And I've never worked that hard in my life. And it almost like literally like cost me my life. Like, I worked 7 days a week. I was grinding. This when me and Matt are talking a lot. And he's like, dude, you got to slow down. Like, it was just work. I was out every night, you know, entertaining and burning the candle at both ends. I'm gaining weight. And I remember going to the doctor and he literally was like, you might have about 60 days. I said, what do you mean? He's like, 60 days, what? He's like, to live. He's like, you need to change something right now. And at the time it was kind of like Matt said, like the perfect storm. Like, I actually hit President's Club and I gave him a 2-month notice in the swimming pool to my VP at this big resort. And he's like, what do you mean you're quitting? And I was like, I got the trophy. Like, I did it. I made it and I'm done now. I'm going to quit while I'm on top. And me and Matt were always talking about doing something back again together. And so I'm at the most burned out I ever am. And when you said about happiness, I wasn't happy at all. I was just working, doing well financially, but just not happy. And then I was in a long kind of 4-year relationship that wasn't going anywhere. And once that ended, I remember calling Matt and I said, hey, I'm going to retire for a little bit.
I remember that call. And I'm like, what do you mean retire?
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna not work.
Yeah, I'm gonna not work anymore. Yeah.
I basically traveled around the world for 6 months. Didn't cut my hair once. Got in the best, like, physically, spiritually, mentally, just really got just grounded and centered. And it was crazy because I remember the first 2 weeks, I had the phone, but I didn't have a service. And I was like, this is nuts that I don't have emails and phone calls. And like, I can go work out twice. I can go to the beach. It was just unbelievable. So other than having my little boy, the best thing I've ever done in my life. And me and Matt were talking while I'm traveling. So he got me to good headspace and he kept saying, hey, I think I got this figured out. I think we could grow a real estate, you know, team. And at that time I was like, hey, good news. Like, I have no plans. So this sounds awesome because I'm eventually going to have to start earning a living again. Yeah. And I'll see you When was it, Matt? Was it right around like June? I think I came up.
Yeah, I think June. I was looking back. I think that was you ended up getting. I think you got your license like towards the end of 2017. So
Yep.
really, like 2018, we kind of started. You came back. You screwed off for a couple of months, and then we had to like get you settled back in on the phones. And really, I mean, and it was a relief for me because it was like, I think having somebody else, like sometimes partnerships are tough because you don't know what you can expect from somebody else. But when you have somebody like when we were in the trenches there trying to dig out of a hole that we were never going to get out of in South Florida, you kind of know like, all right, when it's time to buckle down, if we gotta work 14-hour days, 15-hour days, 7 days a week, this guy's going to be there doing it beside me. So it makes it easier when you're going into business with somebody that you've already been in the trenches with that know like you can kind of dig your way out. And it was like, awesome. and our skills, like they kind of offset each other. He's the sales guy. I'm the systems guy. I was burning out on the sales end. If he had to do the system stuff, he'd lose his mind. And so it was kind of a natural fit. So like 2018, we started, we really started kind of pumping with the team. And then I think we brought Jen on that year and really just kind of started growing it. Really, I guess it's been like about 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. So, the thing there too, where, one, getting into the trenches. And so understanding that from a partnership dynamic, but two, you guys, like you said, complement each other really, really well. And I think that's where a lot of partnerships fail is because, they don't complement and they don't go out and understand the missing pieces that they've got to have. And I know it's kind of really what the whole topic and the whole theme of today's conversation is finding that leverage, but it all starts with an awareness of what you're really, really good at, and what you're not. So, I think that's kind of a key point that we want to really hit on. I'd love for you to kind of unpack that a little bit, part of the process for you guys from a strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. And I think maybe even to take it like one step further before that, I think this is something that you really helped us with, right? So it was, we're now, 2018 struggle, right? We're trying to figure things out, right? We're, my first time like growing a team, he's never been in real estate, so to speak. I mean, enough coming from the mortgage end, kind of how things work. But it's still a different animal. I mean, calling expireds and FSBOs and kind of just cutting your teeth on that. And, and then as we started finding some success and started continuing to grow, I think we had a conversation. I remember it early on, and it was like, well, what's the goal, right? And we were like 300 transactions.
Yeah.
Right. So 300 transactions in 3 years, I think was the goal. You're like, well, why? And I remember you asking, well, why is that the goal? We're like, I don't know, man. Because it seems like that's what like the guys who were killing it and the guys who were big producers are doing 300 transactions, and we want to be a big producer.
Yeah.
Right? Like we don't want to be like, average. So yeah, that's the goal. And then, and we kind of kept chasing that for a little bit. Well, how do we do more? How do we do more? And around that time, like you had your son, right? So DJ had, when was Maverick? A couple of years.
May 25th, 18, his birthday. Yeah.
So 2018, he has an unexpected baby, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that really, and now it's like, is the goal really 300 transactions, or is the goal to build a business that is going to give us some freedom in the future? Because right then and there, we didn't have it because we were still chasing, we were still running all weekend, both of us grinding, because that was really just kind of all we ever knew how to do was we would just work.
Yeah.
Like,
I think, I think that's huge for everybody listening in, and coming to that realization, what is your freedom, right? What is that?
Yeah.
And it's a financial freedom number. So it's a number.
Yep.
And, what does that have to look like? And there's models, there's things that we can do to get there, right? Once we know the goal, then we can, figure out the model, the monetization model, and then we can find somebody that's done it and model it, right? So like before we went live, it's, the point we were talking about is that those things are duplicatable, right? We can find those once we know what it is that you guys want to get after. But the one thing that is not duplicatable, and this is what we talked about before going live, was what is your happiness, right? So it took an amazing, gift, right? To kind of create that awareness for you guys to sit back and go, oh shit, that don't look like fun. What is going to make us happy? What is going to be there? And so that light bulb goes off for you guys. Then what was the conversations? What was then the new course of action for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of leads you into like a SWOT, like strength and weaknesses, right? So we started really having some like deep conversations, like because there were weekends where he'd be running all weekend and he'd come home and there'd be problems at home, and he's just like, I'm gonna take another job if like this is how it's always gonna be, because I can't do this anymore now with a kid. And I started realizing like, yeah, it changes things. Like we need to run this thing differently. And is the goal to just be able to say that we're number one in our market, or is the goal to like actually be happy and have a home life and have our weekends and and live the life? Because ultimately, like that's what we were doing up until that time. We were just chasing, and it's like 10 years go by, and like, what did you do memorable in those 10 years? The only thing you did, like, you took a mini retirement, but I didn't. And it was like, man, I just grinded for 10 years and like none of that was any fun. So how do we enjoy the journey and build something that it's not about the numbers, it's about, a future and taking care of that. So we started really diving into, hey, what does your perfect week look like? Like, what's the thing that, like, I remember you saying, like, he needs his Sundays off. Like, nobody talked to him. Like, no appointments. Like, he needs to decompress on Sundays. Where me, like, I need little mini vacations. So we just started structuring, like, well, how do we make this work? In order to give ourselves the lives that we want. So we really had to start diving deep. And a lot of that goes into, too, like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What do I absolutely hate doing? What do you hate doing? How do we structure our team in that manner? And, and it's never easy. It wasn't perfect and there were still some struggles with it, but we just kept like, hey, all right, I can start to see it. Like, and it's still never perfect, but like you can, but where we're at now versus where we were at 2 years ago, like, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day. So this is another key thing when you've got the right partnership, is that the ability to be open to reveal the blind spots and our weaknesses, right? Because we all have them, but we don't necessarily see them. And so do you think, your guys' history and as much time that you guys have had with each other, that makes that process easier to be open to hear? Because a lot of people don't want to hear that, right? They don't want to believe that they have that particular weakness and it is a blind spot. So having a partner or having somebody in your life that gives enough shit about you to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, but that you respect enough to be open to receive that information. And so do you feel that your guys' history allowed that to happen?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing even deeper, not only to be able to share it and be vulnerable about it, have a good conversation, and where I give Matt so much credit is like, to adapt the whole business when he saw, hey, this is hurting my personal life, or it's going to affect me as a father. I commend him so much, because there's people that wouldn't do that, right? And then knowing that Matt wanted to be a father, which now he is, you know, a big part of my why too is like he kind of said about our history. I don't want to let him down. Letting him down is worse than letting myself down. Like on, you know, so like when to get to that freedom point of life and do what we're doing, I want him to have a good life and him to provide for his family and have his weekends and have his time to be the best dad. So yeah, I think our history was huge and just
I mean, we can be brutally honest.
Yeah.
We can be brutally honest every other day with each other.
I think that's key, right? You guys know that. You've given yourselves permission to do that. So really, you know, around this conversation as it relates to, you know, designing the business to support the freedom that you guys want, the lifestyle you want, the happiness you want. So like for me, you know, the first leverage piece was you guys coming back together, right? Yeah. And complementing that. Go back to, you know, I know, Matt, you're the numbers guy. Is something just, you know, interesting when you made the move to Florida? Hey, we need 25 to 30,000. Like where the hell did that number come from?
What's that? Oh, because I had it broken down like what rent would be, what we would both need to what we would both need to pay, literally, and that's like here's what we would need to literally just survive, like meals, what rent an apartment, we could work out of an apartment, like literally I was like, here's 6 months. I figured it'll take us 2 to get the licenses, and we got 2 months to get stuff under contract, and we got 2 months to close it, or we're good. And it worked.
So you know that's the compliment right there, right, DJ? It's you know he's thinking through that, whereas you know you're like, shit, let's get after it, right?
That's it. I'm more run through a wall tactical. Let's run.
That's the worst. I'm like, just hit the phones until we got a pipeline.
Until we get there. Yeah. Until we get there. So you guys are kind of, so we're, you know, I love the question. It's a Jim Collins question. You know, what does this have to look like for you to be committed to it for the next 10 years? And I don't know if, you know, you guys necessarily asked yourselves that question, but it was a form of that in, you know, Sundays off, right? This has to be structured this way. We need this piece. We need this, right? This is how it has to look for us to be committed to this. So you get to that point, what, you know, once you're kind of identifying the strengths, weaknesses, I mean, you know, the numbers backwards and forwards, like what was really that next piece? Like, hey, this is what we've got to do now.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we both knew that the buyer side of the business doesn't allow us to control our schedules, right? And so we knew we needed to grow our team and have buyers agents. Ultimately, we needed to get to a point where we have full-time admin help and assistant help, but in terms of kind of what our schedules look like, it was what's taking all of our time. Right. So we really had to dissect, like, what do our weeks look like? Where am I spending all of my time? What's the stuff that's taking away? Like, and could we maximize our business by only concentrating on this thing and you just completely getting out of buyers, or however the case. So originally that started with, he was mainly listings and I was doing, we just had DJ mainly concentrate on expireds, FSBOs, outbound prospecting. I was at that point getting enough sphere business, referral business, buyer leads, where I was still running. Occasionally he'd be running with buyers on weekend. And so then it was like, we need to figure out how to leverage and get some buyers agents, and kind of take that off of our plate. And then ultimately that grew into, we needed the admin assistant, and really it came down to, like, are we okay making less money right now? Like, that was the hardest decision, I think, of them all. Yeah. Like, are we okay making less money to have that time and freedom back? Because that's the ego part that is a tough pill to swallow. Are we okay seeing somebody else's name up there selling more homes than us? Like, because that was just always, every time that would come out, I'd tape it on my wall, and we would have to say, like, man, that's not the goal. Like, that's not the goal. Like, that's the shit that keeps me up at night and drives me crazy. Like, we want to be number one, and it's like, so every month we're like fighting that. Like, now he's like, well, I'm taking, this is a $500,000 buy, and it's like, yeah, but dude, they're gonna suck all your weekends. You know what I mean? Like, if the plan is, we're gonna structure it how we want to structure it, and we're okay making less, then you got to give that lead up, right? You got to give that person up so that we can just continue to function. And so we're gonna get there. It's gonna take us longer, but even this year, like, the journey is just so much different. And then obviously EXP totally changes all of that.
Right? Yeah, it opens up additional streams, right? The model changes. Yeah. And so the point here, I just want to hammer home for everybody tuning in, is that Matt and DJ threw out some decision-making filters, right? They threw out some things to, is this moving us closer, or is this going to move us further away? And that's the lesson. That's the takeaway for all of you guys listening in. If you don't have those type of decision filters, you're going to say yes to everything. And, when you say yes to something, that means you're saying no to something else. So if DJ's saying yes to this $500,000 buyer, that means he's saying no to spending time with his son on the weekends. Yep. And a lot of people don't understand the ripple effect of when you say yes to something. And, that has to be one of the boxes you check when you're making decisions, right? If I say yes to this, what's the ripple effect? What's going to happen? So to me, that's the lesson, right? Is like, what is a yes and what is a no? What's a hard no, right? Yeah. And being able to have that. And so it goes back to goes back to knowing your numbers, right, Matt? To know, hey, can we do this? Are we okay with this?
Yep.
And
I mean, and it's not easy, like, it's not like even a year ago, it's like, well, we could just go back and just both start selling and probably do close to what we're doing now, but we'd make a lot more money, but we wouldn't be happy. And it's like, we'd have to be okay with that. And so I think ultimately when it comes down to, what you're looking to leverage, it's going down to the SWOT analysis, because it's like, I hate doing this. How do we find leverage for that activity? Or this takes up all my time. This is where I'm missing time at home. This is what's causing so how do we fill that? How do we fill that void? And I think that's the process, right? It's not like we've learned everything the hard way, right? Like, you tell us how to build a team and we do it ass backwards, and like, we'll still get there ultimately, but we just make everything harder than it should be. I don't know what it is. Like, we have to learn, we're just dumb enough where, like, we have to learn it on our own in order for us to get it.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. So how often are you evaluating that process, right? Going through and really, checking in on the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because it changes, right?
Oh, absolutely it does. I mean, just this year, it's almost changed 100%. Like,
I would say for me, what I would commend you again, I think this is the most dialed in I've ever seen Matt, ever. Like, working with him, like, I feel like he is so laser focused now. Even just with his day, like starting his day the right way, getting up early, workout, etc. But with the business, I see him analyzing and adapting more quickly. Where, again, as a business partner, it helps me tremendously, because I've always trusted him. Now I trust him more than ever. And again, working with you, I think, has allowed him maybe to have that confidence and just more knowledge, where before we would move very slowly. Like, I look back now and just as you're talking and think, all the little things that got us here, right? Even we talked about being a more profitable business, how we changed like admin fees or different things on splits, commissions, but all the little things that got us to where we are. Now I feel like you just pivot and move fast. It's more decisive.
I think what's cool because it's not necessarily a safety net, but you have that ability in that belief, right? That progress is making a mess, right?
Yeah.
And if you make a mess, you just clean it up and keep moving, right? That is progress. And I think when you experience that and that it's not the death blow, right? It's the whole taking shots to the boat. As long as we don't take one below the water line, we're good. We're going to take shots as long as it's above the water line, because that's not going to stop us. And DJ, to your point there with you guys, I think you really honed in on the target, right?
Yeah.
You found happiness, and what it looks like for you, and then the plan's in place, right? So we always talk right things, right order. It's the goal, it's the model, it's the plan, and then it's the team. What does the team have to look like for us to get there? And once you see that, then it allows you to run so much faster.
Right.
Yeah. And I think one of the things too, I think like moving slow, like we had a little bit of that, little bit of that fear, right? Like we've been through that South Florida market. Like, you start seeing COVID and you start thinking, you're hearing about how many mortgages are passed, and you're like, oh my God, tell me we're going to like, you start
back to that again.
You start having that fear or question, like, is this the right thing? And it causes you to move slower, or it causes you to not make decisions quicker. Or it's like, well, we've got to be really like, and not that you can't, like, not that you don't want to have some kind of decision-making ability to worry about the threats. But, I think finally it's like, we know this will work, and if it doesn't, we know you could always go back and we could just grind and dig yourselves out of the hole. So why not like chase it and build it how you want to, knowing that the worst case scenario is we could still just go back and outwork everybody. And
the thing that I would love for you guys to kind of talk about too, and I think this is a great leverage point, is dividing and conquering.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And knowing where your strengths, this goes back to strengths and weaknesses, knowing the real opportunity within the additional revenue streams that you guys have. But talk through that process for the two of you, where you guys kind of like, all right, hey, if we're going to make some serious strides, we got to get in a lane, and we got to get in our own lane, and we got to run and have the freedom to do that too. I think is the big thing in the trust. So talk through that process where, how all of that came in. And it obviously came when you guys came to EXP, but kind of talk through
that changed that process too. Right. Like, so I think DJ, you can jump in on this, but I think this is this is where partnerships are so difficult. Right, like where most people don't. Maybe had we not had this history, we don't not make it through like those first couple of years, because partnerships are very difficult, because the other one person's always looking at the other person thinking, are they doing as much as me? And until you can get to the point where or you have full trust that person has like best intentions for you, or that if I'm doing more in this manner and he's doing more in this manner, we're going to ultimately get to a better place in the future, then it's really hard. It's really hard to do that without and not be looking like, hey, well, I was here till 7 last night.
Where were you?
Till 5.
Yeah.
But it's like, so I think there's a little bit of that where it's like, you have to have that, because if you don't, then dividing and conquering can be very difficult. And I've heard a couple of different businesses blow up because of this, because you have one guy who's the sales guy, one guy who's the operations guy, the operations guy's pissed off at the sales guy because he doesn't have enough sales, and the sales guy's pissed off at the operations guy because some deals are going sideways, and he doesn't, and he's the one bringing in all the sales. So you know what I mean? Like, so you have to be able to, again, like it goes back to ego a little bit. You have to put
what makes it work. What makes it work, DJ? I would love for you to kind of share, because you know you are the I'll run through a brick wall sales guy, hard, cool, full throttle. Like, kind of share from your perspective, your insight. You know why this works for you guys.
So again, it's crazy to think now. I trust him so much. I mean, and literally, I'd take a bullet for him. So it's like when you have that much trust, and I know how hard he works, and going through what we've already been through, it was really when we were, looking at the business and saying, for us to, so EXP being a blessing and having this other stream. When he mentioned about ego, like I remember even early on one thing, it was like what to call the team, right? Well, he was already in Pittsburgh. His name was out there more. And this is where, again, not having the ego is like, let's just keep rolling with Matt Durbin team. Like let's just roll there. But every decision we've made has been always to just grow the business. And, when he tells me and shows me a spreadsheet or tells me this is why we're doing it, now I'd say there's just more trust where I don't question it as much. Before we question more things and talk about it more. And having two kind of A-type personality guys, like Matt said, that's where it can be tough, because it's like, well, I really believe in this. Well, I believe in this. I feel like we just more are able to agree more quickly, right? So, for me, recently, why it's been even more of a blessing is like I was always the sales guy, just grinding it out, doing my thing on expireds and FSBOs. Now having this bigger team and having even people around me doing it, it's like a whole new excitement to do it. It's like we talked when we first started this, like I want to have a room where we're all on headsets, jamming away in the trenches together, because you told me this in one of the coaching calls, and it's been amazing when you said, hey, applaud the wins, right? Get excited about all those little wins. And just that in the first couple of weeks, it's like, it's infectious. Those good feelings that like listing appointments set, oh, great call. And we're listening to each other. And now there's just more of that. So it's like where we're at now, me hyper-focused there. It's given me more excited than ever. Now I'm training more, right? So now it's making me up my game. And I'm even now listening to, and again, just
leading by example.
EXP, I'm back in Honey Badger Nation looking at, the other greats, Mark Z, Tina, like every day I'm getting more nuggets from people better than even me saying, all right, now I can raise my game even more and I can spread this. And then, Matt right now being hyper-focused on this other avenue now of attraction. His name's out there more. He's doing a great job on the videos and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I'm pumped. I mean, I'm just excited because I feel like it's the most dialed in I've ever felt. I'm excited. I see it, and it's just awesome.
Two points I want to hit. What you said there, DJ, and Matt, you were talking about it a little bit too. One, it's the trust, and when I hear trust, that my favorite definition of trust is authenticity times time, right? Being vulnerable, and so. Why I think you guys work so well is that you've had so much authenticity, vulnerable time with each other that allows that trust to be there. The other, you guys kept saying no ego, no ego. You guys, it's not about DJ. You're not fighting to be right. Matt's not fighting to be right. It's about getting to right. So you said, how you guys are moving faster. It's the decision process of okay, what's right. Right? Like you guys are like, hey, what's right? We're just trying to get to right. What's right? Okay, that's the decision. Let's go. And that's what I see from my perspective, looking in with you guys, the trust, the authenticity, but then it's about what is right. And, if you guys didn't take that time to get clear on what is your definition of happiness and how you want this business to support that, then I don't know if you would know what right is. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think to that point, like figuring out what that looks like has enabled us to build a business in that manner. Like he's still selling because that's what he does. I mean, like it or not, like he could be on the phone for 12 hours a day and be perfectly happy with that. You know what I mean? Like
That's
talking
a strength, right? It's a strength. And
you know,
so
like,
it's passion and proficiency, right? It's what are you good at and what do you love doing?
Exactly. And now that's provided an avenue where he can help to teach our newer agents and training them on the outbound, like, which gives you that fulfillment beyond just another transaction, because you're building that for the future, where that's building our business, and so like that's his avenue now. Like he's running with that. He's got like, and now I'm over here doing totally opposite. I'm like working a deal with them. I'm onboarding a new agent. Like now my focus is like primarily moving into the agent attraction side of things. And obviously I still have a lot of sphere business, and we're still trying to figure out kind of how we divvy that up and hand that out. But I enjoy that side of things, in the trainings, in the back, in this side of the business. And so it's allowed me to get into that where you're happy coming to work every day.
So
it's not like a painful process.
Right. So knowing that, dividing and conquering, and you said this is where, ego will get in the way. What are they doing? What are they doing? They're not pulling their weight or whatever. You guys like got clear on, hey, sales wise, this is where we need to be. DJ, what's the agreement? Can we agree on this together? Right. And then, hey, we got to get headcount to this and agree together. Going through that process, then it allows you guys to, instead of saying, I was here till midnight, where were you? I'm pulling my weight. No, it's like, hey, DJ, you're looks like you're a little short on sales. What do you need, or who do you need to help you get back on track? Is that, because that's the kind of conversations that I see. I kind of, and you go back to kind of leverage.
Yep.
It's like, shit, Matt, you're struggling a little bit. You're not able to run in your lane. Who do you need? What help do you need? What leverage? What do we need to help you do there? Is that more of the conversations that you guys have than not?
Absolutely. I mean, we just had this like a couple of weeks ago. We were really, like, he was diving deep where, training in the mornings, like, and that's normally the call block time. And it is a call block time because they're outbound calling, but he's training during that time. And it's like 2 weeks go by and he's like, man, I haven't hit my numbers. Like, we got to pull back on the training. So it's like, well, then we got to reevaluate like how we're doing this training. And can we do that another time a day? Can we do one day, two? Like it's just like, and now I know why listings are down, and that's okay. We just got to figure out how to tweak that so you get more of your time back, and and we still are able to get the trainings done. Or what can I jump in on now? And we can do those in the afternoon. How do we restructure the day so that it's not taken away from? So really, it's like prioritization and then recalculating the calendar where it makes it work.
I love that. I'm just thinking through. Leverage is not just with people, right?
Right.
Leverage is the calendar. Leverage is our thinking. Leverage is the business model, right? There's many facets when you're talking about leverage. It doesn't just have to be people, but I think the biggest thing is the ability to just get to right. Like the story you just shared about DJ, it's like, shit, man, I ain't hitting my numbers. Like, we got to figure this out. Something's off. And then you guys, what we reveal, we can heal. And that's, you guys aren't trying to hide anything. It's complete transparency and creating that culture of just get to right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, obviously like you said, with leverage, the word is thrown out there a lot, but more, and that's kind of how we think of it. It's like the leverage is whether that be people or processes or systems or divide and conquer or whatever that is, to be able to still run the business and be successful and profitable, but also like have a life.
Yeah.
Because that's what we didn't have, and we didn't have it for a long time. And I know there's probably a lot of people out there that are the same way, that are still grinding, and there's just never going to be an end in sight.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you just have to just figure that out and be committed to, ultimately what is the end goal, or not even what is the end goal. What is the today's goal to be happy every day when you get up,
known direction. Yeah. Have to have that known direction.
And what's crazy, man, hearing you say that is like when we changed our model to be happier, pre-EXP, now my excitement or my determination on the sales side is, I'd say 10x, for the reason is I want Matt on 100% attraction. Because that's the real now, but like when you think of the real happiness goal, and Jason, I just want freedom. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I mean, I don't, for me now, as I get older, especially having a little boy, I tell Matt all the time, I want to be there for every practice. I don't want to miss his events. I want to be the dad that's there, because mine wasn't. And now that we're both, and I know Matt wants the same, and that's where having this other pillar, I still can't believe it. Like, it doesn't seem real. I'm like, I can't believe we work for this company, that we are all shareholders, we have stock, we revenue share. It's truly unbelievable. I laugh every time I even say it. Like, I just can't believe it. It's amazing.
It's awesome. Yeah, it is awesome. So, what would you guys kind of recommend, somebody trying to venture down this path, and trying to, kind of find that happiness? What would you guys kind of recommend them, to do first?
I think, and this is something that you had us do multiple times. It's like, find that, like, your perfect week, so to speak, or even like, what are or ultimately, I think a lot of us in this business, especially when you're really busy, or like solo agent, or you're doing a number of transactions, or even if you're just getting started, it's like what's taking away the time that you would ultimately need or want to use to do something else, where, are you losing time with family, or is it, whatever the case may be. Can't go on vacation. But like, I remember being on vacation 2 years ago. I was actually getting married, and I was doing deals all day. Like, and it's like, I couldn't put the phone, like, literally, that's 2 years ago. Like, I was stressed out the whole time there. And it's like, and I'm like, man, I can't do this. Like, I couldn't go on a vacation and enjoy it, because I didn't have, because I had to be the guy on the phone, because that was going to change. So it's like, ultimately, you got to start making decisions, like what would make you happier in your life, and then you almost back into, well, if I didn't have to do this, if I didn't have these weekends, if I didn't have to do all these like whatever you hate doing, and that's where the SWOT analysis, or any kind of strengths and weaknesses, or even if it's just, hey, what am I good at? What am I bad at? What do I just absolutely hate doing, or what is taking up all my time, that even if I could cut this out, maybe my income would drop a little bit, but it would just change my life. I think it makes it a lot easier than to back into, well, could I find a person that could fill that? Could I find a system that could fill that void? I think you got to start with, like, what does it look like? And then it's easier to back into how you get there.
I love that. I love it. Fellas, man, amazing call. Always glad to connect and chat with you guys, and I appreciate you both jumping in and adding a ton of value, and being a true expert mentor to everybody here in the Honey Badger Nation. So, best way, if somebody wanted to kind of connect with you guys, what's the best way to reach out?
You can go to Call Matt D is kind of my contact card site. You can reach out to us any there, Matt the Urban Team, or obviously you can find us anywhere. You can find us on social. If you're in a Honey Badger group, you can find us.
Pretty easy. Yeah. Cool. Well, appreciate all you guys listening in. Make sure you guys give Matt and DJ lots of love. And if you got some questions for them, make sure you guys connect. Definitely a ton of value, and always coming from a place of contribution. So appreciate you guys. Guys, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys on the next episode.
All right, cool.
John.